In the first playing game of 2024, the Lakers beat the Pelicans 110-106. They're going to move on and play the Nuggets, and the Pelicans are one loss away from their season being over. And there is only one place to start with this game, and it is Zion Williamson. We have been waiting on this kind of moment for Zion. There's been issues in terms of him staying healthy. There's been issues in terms of him staying in shape. The last couple of months of Zion have showed us a glimpse of what we've all wanted. In this game in particular, although it didn't work out for New Orleans, we have to begin by talking about the Zion game, because the Lakers theoretically are a team that should be able to guard Zion well. They've got Anthony Davis at the rim. They had Anthony Davis individually on Zion in certain moments. LeBron tried to guard him just because of the size and speed matchup, and they just couldn't do anything with this guy. I mean, there's so much space in between him and the defender. They're playing him like he's Ben Simmons. They're playing so far off of him, with Anthony Davis, one of the best rim protectors in the entire league, ready to meet him at the rim, and it just didn't matter. He got to the line, layup after layup after layup. He was out in transition, but it wasn't just that. He was making creative passes. He was guarding well. It's unfortunate that the Pelicans didn't win the game, but my goodness, was this ever the Zion game that we have been waiting for, a 40-point game. Now, unfortunately for New Orleans, he didn't finish the game. Got hurt, a couple minutes left in the game, didn't finish the game. And interestingly for the Pelicans as well, there were some interesting lineup choices. I'm not necessarily saying that they were bad lineup choices. I promise we're going to get to the Lakers here too. This isn't just going to be about the Pelicans, but Jose Alvarado kind of turned the game around in the second half. Huge plus-minus game for him. Brought energy, created offense for guys. CJ McCollum didn't come in the game really late in the game until Zion got hurt. And Brandon Ingram really wasn't a factor at all in the fourth quarter. Now he is coming off of an injury. Maybe there was a minutes restriction there, but it felt more like a coach's decision where Trey Murphy was playing well. Of course, Zion was playing well. And CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram weren't having that good of games. Brandon Ingram was pretty good in the beginning. CJ was terrible all game long. And it's just interesting. Obviously, New Orleans has so much depth, but apart from Zion, none of their other big players really came to play, and they really struggled to figure out how they wanted to match up with the Lakers throughout the game. They got off to a really good start. Both teams shot the ball extremely well to begin the game. And really, the Pelicans just got behind in the second quarter because the Lakers started making a ton of threes. This is a formula that we have seen them use in the past when they made their title run in 2020. They built their team around size, rebounding, guarding, and then making timely threes. They shot the ball extremely well in the bubble, and that's been the formula for them when they've been really good, is they've had big LeBron games, big Anthony Davis games, really good on the glass, can guard, and they made threes. And by the way, coming into this game, the Lakers were 22-10 in their last 32 games. They've been really good basically since January, and they're starting to get some pieces back like Gabe Vincent as well. And I think this game really showcased just how dangerous the Lakers can be in a postseason environment. It wasn't a particularly efficient LeBron game. It wasn't a particularly efficient Anthony Davis game, but D'Angelo Russell shot the ball really well. Austin Reeves made some plays late, despite, generally speaking, not having a great game. And just the size is a real issue for a lot of teams. Now, to go along with that size, I'm sure a lot of people are going to point out as well, a huge free throw advantage for the Lakers in this game, despite, Zion constantly attacking the rim, obviously. Some of them were a little questionable, but for the most part, it just has to do with how the Lakers play. They get downhill, they get to the rim, and especially against this Pelicans team, they have a lot of success at the rim, and the Pelicans really struggle to find a five-man that they like in this matchup. They tried to have JV get going. It wasn't happening, so then they played a lot of Larry Nance, and they just really struggled to match up with this Lakers team. They have struggled against them all season long. But then as we got into the fourth quarter, some things started to shift. Alvarado was making plays. The Pelicans stopped turning the ball over. That was a huge issue for them in the first half and first half of the third quarter as well. Just kept turning the ball over. They had a terrible shooting second quarter, but they started to figure it out. Trey Murphy was hitting shots, and the Lakers, interestingly, really struggled to create late game offense. And in theory, that shouldn't be an issue for them, right? I mean, they've got Anthony Davis, who I said is a really tough matchup for New Orleans. They've got LeBron, of course, Austin Reeves, D'Angelo Russell. They have creators, but they really struggled the last 9 or 10 minutes of this game, partially because they were adamant about just getting LeBron in some of these switches. And he wasn't creating very much. He was getting switches onto Alvarado. Later in the game, it was CJ McCollum. At times, it was even someone like Herb Jones, and he just couldn't create good offense for the Lakers. That's something to keep an eye on for them, obviously, going into their series against Denver, because last year and some previous series as well, it really hasn't been LeBron. It's been Austin Reeves. It's been, D'Angelo Russell at times this season as the late game creator. And seeing how much he struggled, obviously, with a team in New Orleans that's extremely talented defensively, one of the best defensive teams in the league, and has plenty of guys with great size that can guard LeBron pretty well. That's going to be something to keep an eye on, because it didn't look like he could really get by his man. He could create. He was tough. He was settling for these tough long twos, definitely a concern a little bit for the Lakers. Moving forward for each of these teams now, New Orleans is going to have another play-in game. I would imagine they're going to be the favorite. They should still have a decent shot at ending up as the 8th seed. And quite frankly, if you assume that you're going to make the playoffs, like if you tell the Pelicans before the play-in, hey, you're going to make the playoffs, you probably rather be the 8. I know I would rather play Oklahoma City, certainly if I was the Pelicans or the Lakers, given the way that they match up size-wise against the Thunder. I would much rather play OKC in the first round than play Denver. I'd be terrified of Jokic. I'd be terrified of the championship pedigree there. We know what the Lakers-Nuggets series looked like last year. So it isn't necessarily all bad for the Pelicans, assuming that they can figure out what's going on with Zion. As we're recording this video, we don't know exactly what the injury is for him. That's still certainly a winnable matchup for them, I think, in a series against OKC. It would be tough. OKC's really, really good, but I'd rather play them. So not necessarily a bad thing, but of course they still got to win one more to get into the postseason. And then for the Lakers, it's really nice that they won the first play-in game. They get their guys some rest, obviously, as a little bit of an older team with their stars, but I struggle to see a path in which they can actually challenge the Nuggets in a 7-game series. Maybe they'll take a couple of games off of them, but it's a matchup that is just extremely, extremely difficult for them when the Nuggets are really operating at full strength. They're going to have to shoot the ball extremely well. AD is going to have an unbelievable series against Jokic. And, you know, Denver has had their struggles a little bit towards the end of this season, but that was the same thing for them last year. And then they had an unbelievable postseason run. I think they went 16-4 or something in the playoffs last year. So as nice as it was for the Lakers to win this one and know that they're in the postseason, like I mentioned with the Pelicans, I would rather play OKC than play the Nuggets in terms of trying to upset somebody in the first round. The Lakers, you know, they have an outside chance, of course, because they have LeBron, they have Anthony Davis, they can guard, you know, if they can shoot the ball well enough, they have an outside chance. But again, just based strictly off the series last year, I'm not really sure that this is going to end up being a good experience for the Lakers and their fans. We'll see exactly how that series shakes out. But this was, first of all, an awesome start to the play-in tournament in itself, but just an unbelievable game. And it's unfortunate the way it ended with the Zion injury, but so many interesting little pieces for each of these teams in a matchup that feels like we've seen a lot this season. We just saw it a few days ago, and now we see it tonight as well. Unbelievable Zion experience, and hopefully the Pelicans win. I'm rooting for them to be the other team. I think that's the most interesting matchup for Oklahoma City to try and deal with. And again, hopefully Zion is healthy. And really my only other takeaway here is just the Pelicans figuring out kind of what their hierarchy is. I don't want to take too much away from the substitution patterns, especially in the fourth quarter, because like I said, Brandon Ingram has been coming off of an injury, and they mentioned there's a minutes restriction, and they wanted to increase that minutes restriction coming into the game. But I'd have to imagine that it was probably just a coach's decision. I mean, CJ McCollum has been awesome coming into the game, terrible in this game. Brandon Ingram, after an okay start, was not that great the rest of the way. And, you know, Trey Murphy, Jose Alvarado, these guys were the ones that got them back in the game. But even then, once Zion went out with the injury, you would expect both McCollum and Ingram to be in at the end of the game to create offense for you, and it was just McCollum. So interesting thing to keep an eye on there for New Orleans moving forward. Brandon Ingram, obviously a huge part of their future, yet not really involved towards the end of the game. But again, the story for me, awesome Zion game and an awesome game in general.